Okay.
All right, Mr. Chairman, we're ready.
Okay, good afternoon. This is the meeting of the City of Mobile's Board of Adjustment for Monday, January 11th, 2021, our first meeting of the year. Let's start out with the roll call. Mr. Davis? Sanford Davis, are you with us?
Mr. Davis,
I am here.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Coleman? Vernon Coleman, are you with us today?
no, he's not.
Okay. Mr. Lewis Golden?
Here.
Adam Metcalf?
Yeah.
Jeremy Miller?
Here.
John Burris?
Yeah.
And I'm William Guest. That meets a requirement for a quorum. We have 6 members present. Takes 5 to affirm a motion, and therefore we can proceed. We have an agenda that's been provided by staff, and the chair will accept the motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Okay, motion carries. All right, let me go over the procedures and rules real quick. General procedures for this remote meeting are as follows. When an applicant is called, staff will admit the concerned or interested parties associated with an application into the meeting. Once the parties have joined the meeting, I will briefly go over the rules regarding the number of speakers and the time limit. We'll then announce the beginning of the public hearing. The applicant will present their case, up to 3 additional speakers if applicable. And for each speaker at the end of the presentation, I'll ask if there's any questions for the board members. And then once that portion has concluded, we'll give the opportunity for those interested in opposition to speak and for the board to ask questions. At that point, the applicant will get an opportunity to rebut any comments up to a 2-minute time period, and then we'll declare the public hearing closed. The board will go into deliberation and a decision will be rendered. Applicant concerned parties will leave the meeting, then we'll go back to the waiting room and invite those that are for the next application. As a reminder, 5 votes are required to approve a variance. All right, we'll start with the first item on the agenda, which is 6359, holdover from the previous meeting. And let's see if I got, this would be Revitalize Mobile LLC. This is application 6359. Margaret, will you invite the interested parties into the waiting room?
I have admitted into the meeting Lee Waldrop for the applicant, as well as Jakarta July, who is one of the residents from the area.
Okay, do we have anyone in opposition today?
I believe Miss July is opposed.
Okay,
Let's check and make sure we can hear each other. Mr. Waldrop, can you hear us?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Miss July, can you hear us?
Yes.
okay.
Okay, thank you.
And for the record, do we have any written communications regarding this application?
Not since Mr. Waldrop provided additional information, which Bert Hoffman forwarded to you earlier this morning.
Okay. All right, I think we can proceed with the applicant's statement. Once again, this application was recommended for denial by the staff. If you'll tell us, Mr. Waldrop, why you think the board should consider otherwise.
Yes, sir. I'm applying for a one-time variance for this property that my company purchased. I provided photos to show that it was clearly operating as a multifamily residence when I purchased it. It was an oversight on my behalf and moving renters in without applying for a variance prior. We did buy it with renters in place. We had the owner move out the renters that were in place, purchased it, remodeled the property, and we have nice tenants in place with an upgraded property community. We did meet with the neighbors and also invited them to a town hall meeting at our office. We have got 72 signatures that agree with us for a one-time variance for this property, that agree with the remodel and allow us to, that agree for the variance. And so we did not have anybody show up to our office Monday, January 4th from 4 to 6. We invited the community and put letters, handed letters to all people that met with us to attend. Nobody showed up at our office, but we did meet with 72 residents in the community that signed off on a petition allowing variance.
Okay. Any questions of the board for Mr. Waldrop?
Mr. Chairman, I've got a question.
Yes.
Lee, do you know what the rents were before you bought the property with the existing tenants?
No, sir, he didn't have leases with written leases that he could provide us. So I'm not sure. It seems sort of like a month-to-month situation. I showed some before and after of the kitchens too, and you can see kind of the conditions that he allowed his renters to live in. And I'm not sure. I can only imagine that it was less than what we're charging now.
What do y'all charge for rent for those units?
We charge $900 for the 3-bed, 2-bath. We charge,
Is that A and B?
Yes, sir. A is a 3-bed, 2-bath, and that's $900. B is $700, and that includes water. And then all of these includes water. Our landlord pays for it. And then the back is also.
Okay. And are they all currently occupied?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, any other questions of the applicant?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes, proceed.
Bear with me. I can't turn that phone off, y'all.
All right, proceed, Mr. Burrows.
Okay. A question to the gentleman now that they own. Were you aware of the code requirements when you purchased this property for, for single family dwellings in this neighborhood?
Well, no, sir, that was an oversight by me. We mainly operate in the single family world, and we just assumed when it was operating in the capacity it was, we bought it and cleaned the property up, and that was clearly an oversight on us. We'll own up to that mistake. So no, we did not check that prior to purchasing it or moving.
Were there apartments there before when you first purchased?
Yes, it was operating as a 3-unit property when we purchased
Okay, that's important to me to know. Okay, thank you. That helps.
Okay, any other questions of Mr. Waldrop? Mr. Waldrop, kind of along the lines of Mr. Milling's question, how many current tenants do you have? How many apartments rented?
all 3 of those apartments are rented.
Can you repeat that? How many apartments are rented, Mr. Waldrop?
Oh, on this property, all 3 doors are rented.
Okay, so you've got it as 3 again. Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay. All right, once again, any other questions of the board for the applicant? Okay, Ms. July, if you will, you're in opposition, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you want to proceed with your comments again?
Yes, sir. On the 7th, when we met the first time, it was 30 days given for him to go around to the neighborhood. I hear that he said he spoke with 72 residents. No one except for 2 people on my side was spoken to, and they really weren't spoken with. They just received a flyer stating what they did. They were going to have a meeting at the Broad Street I guess at his company. And if there was any questions or concerns to come by. The 72 residents who he has, I guess, signatures from, don't know what portion of Gulffield, or if it is Gulffield, it could be from DIP, wherever. But when we signed our letter stating that we didn't want it there, then I don't know why the 30 days was given. He didn't come. I was told December 26th, a lady came, gave one person 4 flyers and asked him to pass it out for a meeting on January the 4th. We want our neighborhood to stay as a single family dwelling. Did not know what the person before him, whom he purchased it from, what they were doing in the inside. Had they went through the proper channels to have it address the same scenario. We do not want it here. I do not want, no. And I've been here 46 years.
Remind the board again, your location and road.
I'm on East Gulffield Drive. I have to pass the unit every time I leave in and out, headed towards Dolphin Island Parkway. I'm on East Gulffield. I think they're north. And then there's a west, a Central Drive sits in between where the house is actually located. There's a street directly in front of it, the Central Drive. To the left of it is West Gulffield, and to the right of it is East Gulffield.
Okay, the board has received several pictures showing a before and after. Has the site improved, in your opinion?
It's visible. When before the person, Dave, I don't know if that's whom he purchased it from, because Dave didn't own the property. He was trying to lease it from the owner who lives out of state. And before Dave got there, yes, it was overgrown and a lot of people were showing interest in it, but no one came and purchased the home. And then Dave came in and he started doing renovations, I'm assuming, to it. And after he could not maintain it, then that's when Mr. Waldrop and them came in and did what they did. But I didn't receive a flyer. I was told about the flyer for the January 4th meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Metcalf.
question for the lady who's speaking. Ma'am, what is the difference between having someone being a renter in a small single family house as opposed to having 3 tenants at that property?
For me, it's 3 different families that should be 1 single family. Whomever is allowed there, regardless of whatever type of background application process that the company has. When you're going through a single family home, whether they're renting it or buying it, then it's just 1 family.
Well, I know, ma'am, but anybody in your neighborhood any owner can lease their property to somebody. So I just don't know what the difference is when you have a building that has been used that way before and that is now up to code and looking good and high paying, and tenants that are paying really, good money. What's the difference in having 1 tenant in there and then having 3? I don't really understand your opposition.
It wasn't zoned for that. It was zoned for single family. That's my opposition. The person that did it before, they didn't do the right channels. Had we known what they were in there doing, then it would have been the same thing. We would have tried to stop it.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? No, any other questions for Ms. July?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
the staff needs to clarify a couple of things, and Bert may need to follow up because he's more familiar with this site. But the issue of code compliance is not clear. because the renovations did not obtain permits and thus they did not have inspections. So that is what led us to this variance case. I just want to clarify for the board, if they do choose to approve it, it would need to be a condition that full compliance with all codes and ordinances, building, fire, plumbing, electrical, be required.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
is and Margaret, is the applicant still online here?
Yes, yes.
yeah, we're gonna give the applicant a time for rebuttal.
That I was just checking. I want to make sure he was still there.
All right, I have a question, just in looking at the current map. Some of the other residents in the same area look like they have large structures in the back. Go back to the other map you just had up, Margaret, previous. There, if you look to the right of that particular site, yeah, there's 2 or 3 that have large structures on the back. Are we sure that those are not similar conditions?
Can't say for sure, but I can see if I can do a Google view.
I'm just curious because there might be already a kind of a pattern. Maybe Miss July may not be aware of it. Like she said, they would not have known that there's multiple tenants on this site until this came up. And I understand Mr. Metcalf's questioning that.
Well, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Could sub-rented rooms in a house and may not have been aware of it.
This is Bert Hoffman.
Yeah.
Just briefly, I did a research on the title history, and the property was purchased in 2003 by Walter Wetjen and his daughter Pam Weeks. In November 2008, Mr. Wetjen passed away, so the property went to Miss Weeks. Then on December 12th, 2019, Miss Weeks sold the property to David Carbaugh. On December 20th, David Carbaugh sold the property to Revitalize Mobile. So 8 days later, he sold it to Revitalize. And then in August 2020, Revitalize sold the property to Sarah and Matthew Liskey, who live, I believe, in California. There are no permits on record that would have allowed this conversion. The current permits that were pulled have a stop work order because they were pulled for single family residents, not multifamily. And then the Google Street View.
No, wait a minute. Go back to your statement. You said there were permits pulled, but they were for single family resident work.
That's correct. And then what happened is when the building code inspectors went out there and saw that there was a problem, they put a stop work order on all of the work. And that's what triggered us to come in and investigate it and find that it had been converted into 3 dwelling units.
Okay.
Furthermore, the Google Street View shows that prior to 2019, there was only one front door into the main structure. Then from 2019 forward, you show there's a separate front door that was been added to the structure, and it was turned into multiple units.
Okay. All right. Any questions of the board for the staff as it relates to Mr. Hoffman's information? Okay, we'll just go back to the applicant. Mr. Waldrop, you have a rebuttal to Ms. July's comments or information related to what the staff has told us?
Yes, sir. All in all, you know, we are trying to do the right thing, and the permits, you know, you're right. We were in the process of obtaining permits, and they were for single family, and that I can claim ignorance on that for not, you know, doing the multifamily. We're all on board on doing whatever is required if the board approves to make sure this is a safe multifamily permitted structure. Whatever we need to do, you know, we're willing to do that. We're trying to make the community better, you know, and that's, I guess, where I'll leave it.
Okay. Once again, any more questions of the board for Mr. Waldrop? comments of the board? Okay. This will conclude our public hearing on this application. Once again, the staff's recommended for denial. And we have heard that there are individuals that have signed documents either in support or in opposition. Chair, entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I move to approve the application subject to all applicable ordinances and codes, or by obtaining proper permitting.
All right. I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Opposed?
Opposed.
Chair's opposed. Who else was opposed?
Sanford.
Johnny Burrows opposed.
Burrows, and who else?
Sanford.
Mr. Davis. So there was 4 in favor and 3 opposed, correct?
No.
Golden opposed.
Golden opposed. Okay, so the motion fails. So the variance is denied based on a lack of support for the motion. All right. If Margaret, you can clear the waiting room, we'll move to the next application, which is 6363. And while you're doing this, Bert, do we have anybody that has communicated either in support or opposition? I think we
did receive one email from Kathy O'Keefe, which I forwarded to you in the package this morning. She's opposed to the signage.
Okay. Margaret, we only have, what, 2 individuals in the waiting room in support?
I have admitted Tracy Deal, who is the agent for the applicant. I have also admitted someone that is, I believe, with Ascension, a Jay Greer.
Okay.
Hey, Bert. Do you know what or Kathy O'Keefe, do you know, does she live near here, or do you know kind of what her tie is to this?
She lives in, I believe it's Regency at Airport and University, behind the shopping center there. So she's about maybe 2 miles away.
Okay.
She's concerned about Westmobile signage.
She's in the district, is primarily the.
Okay. But hers is more of maybe a bigger issue as far as just general signage within Mobile.
I believe so.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. All right. Do we have Tracy Deal or Mr. Greer in the waiting room, Margaret?
I have admitted them. Miss Deal, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, Mr. and Ms. Greer, could you please identify yourself?
I am Mrs. Jamie Greer. I'm the Executive Director of Operations here at Providence.
Thank you.
All right. And Ms. Deal, as a representative for the application, have you seen the staff's recommendation?
Yes, I have.
Okay. And as a representative, is your client in support of the conditions listed in the staff's recommendation?
Yes, they are.
Okay. Any questions of the board for the applicant? All right. And as stated by Mr. Hoffman, we've got one individual who communicated via the portal or email that they were in opposition as it relates to the signage standards, the current signage requirements. As chair, I would mention that this is very much in line with what I believe we went through a year and a half ago with Spring Hill Hospital.
Yes, sir.
And they did an update to their signage and wayfinding and things like that.
Mr. Chairman, also, the infirmary did the same thing.
Correct. I forgot to mention the infirmary. So this seems to be a very common trend lately with the healthcare providers.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions once again for the applicant? And as noted, we had one written opposition. The applicant's rep states that they are in agreement with the staff recommendation and conditions. Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Subject to staff
Yes.
requirements.
Yes.
Okay, I have a motion to approve subject to staff requirements, conditions. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Have a second. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of
Thank
the
you,
board.
sir.
We appreciate your time.
All
Thank
right. Margaret, if you'll clear the waiting room and bring in our next applicants. This will be application 6364 regarding 2339 Dolphin Island Parkway.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and we'll allow Margaret. Do we have anyone in? Can you tell us who's in the waiting room, please?
Yes, I've admitted Henry Hamilton, who is the applicant, and we have no one else in attendance and did not receive any correspondence in opposition.
Okay,
Great.
Mr. Hamilton.
Yes, sir.
Okay, your name and address for the record, and I failed to do this on the other applications.
Oh, okay. The address 2339 Dolphin Island Parkway, Mobile,
Okay.
Alabama 36605. My name is Henry Hamilton.
Okay, and the staff has recommended for denial. You want to tell the board why we should consider otherwise?
Yeah, please. As I put in my narrative, this would be our second business in an area. Our first business was in an area that would be called rundown, high-risk area, and we're going 4 years now with the business doing really well. We've improved that location, appearance inside and out. Not only that, the community that we in have beginning to clean up and improve their area as well. So our whole purpose was basically not only that, we took some young people who normally wouldn't have had work and employed them in the business as well as outside the business. So we've been pretty successful in that, and we're pretty much determined to do the same thing with this location. Not only do we want to stop here, as we continue to be more successful, we would like to open more businesses in rundown areas to provide a better environment and to employ primarily young teenagers. So that's been our goal since day one. Matter of fact, our first location, we ran into some problems with that area, and we were turned down, but we were persistent in praying that the board or someone there okayed it, and it's been successful. So hopefully we can do the same thing there. And like I say, we would like to continue. In this general area, most of the places are closed and run down on that strip. So our goal is just to try to revitalize the area and clean up the building and put business there that people can utilize and primarily help young people.
Margaret, what's the zoning classification for this area, this property?
Okay, the property is zoned R1. There's non-conforming in the area on the property. However, if you look, you have B3 located to the northwest, B2 adjacent to the east, and then B2 across Dolphin Island Parkway. In general, it would seem this is really more so a question of zoning rather than a question of hardship.
Correct.
Art?
Yeah. And if I could add, the location to the left of us is a trucking company, which is pretty much doing maintenance and cleaning. And to the right is just a pretty much lounge, which is pretty low key, and it's kind of back out of the way. Also, I would like to add that our location here is pretty limited, so it wouldn't be anything that's huge right now. We're just trying to get something up and going, as I say, to employ young people and to improve the area. That's our primary goal. So across the street, I do notice, in addition to what she's saying across the street, I know that there's an open land where I think they're going to do some development, but that's been there for, I guess 10 years or longer. Nothing has happened yet. But my point is that we don't plan to do anything real extravagant that will cause any major delays or anything like that. We just want to continue to build up Mobile and take locations. We got a pretty good deal on the building and land also, so that helps also us to hire people and not have a big overhead.
Mr. Hamilton, if you'll let us ask the staff, or the staff had a comment, Mr. Hoffman. If you'll just hold, Bert, did you have something you were going to state?
Well, as noted, no one provided comments regarding this application, but the trucking company to the northwest recently built a new building for their headquarters there and substantially improved their property. But the property was commercially zoned like that prior to 1967. To the east of the site where the post office is located, that was rezoned under the current zoning ordinance, but it has not been very recent. So what you have is a gap in between two commercial zoning districts where not only do you have the site in question, which was originally developed in the 1960s as a dry cleaners, the lounge behind it, and then there's two more commercial buildings up behind it, some of which are associated with the trucking company who's received variances for the trucking use. So it seems that there is a justification for a rezoning of the property to get it so that it's no longer a continuation of just variances trying to operate there.
Right.
But Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I agree with that, but the applicant, that's kind of outside the applicant's ability. I think that it may be semantics, but Margaret, I think that what you said is absolutely a hardship, and the hardship is its lack of zoning, because it is zoned R1, and those aren't R1 properties there. I mean R1, structures. So I think there is an argument for a variance there, but after such, get the other property owners involved, and I think a zoning change is very much in order. But we have to pay attention to this application as it says.
I concur.
Follow-up question or comment on that. With the need to potentially rezone it, would the current rewrite of the zoning code, would that take care of that based on how it's currently?
No.
What would the new code have? It still was sort of residential?
Correct. There, with the UDC, no property is being rezoned. So the property would not change.
Okay.
I have a question for the applicant. What was the logic behind doing a variance application as opposed to a rezoning?
Well, I guess it's basically the logic behind it. Because of the existing businesses that are there, we didn't find that that would be anything that we were trying to do out of the ordinary or anything different than what was already there. If that answers your question.
This is Bert Hoffman again.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Bert.
I should point out that if the variance is approved, you're looking at the aerial photo on the screen there, and you see the property itself is pretty small. So to the east of it, though, is a larger area, which is the parking lot for the lounge. If you approve the variance, we would have to ensure that the vehicle parking for sale is not bleeding over into the lounge parking lot.
And we are aware of that. And like I say, we don't plan to. This will be our second location, so we don't plan to have a lot of sales. Most of our effort has been pretty much inside the building where we do repairs and we, have people inside. So it's not anything that we would have a problem with the lounge parking in the area. We pretty much understand that we don't plan to be any kind of huge auto sale dealership. Matter of fact, the building is perfect for what we want. And we considered that also. So, but along that same building, as well as in the back, we have more than adequate of parking because inside the location, there's enough room in there for maybe 10, 12 vehicles. So that would not be an issue that you all would be confronted with if we are approved. That I can assure.
Okay. Any other questions of the board for the applicant?
Mr. Guest, if I could make a comment, this is Doug.
Hey, Doug.
What Adam said, the lack of zoning is not a legal hardship. I think a hardship probably does exist here, but the staff's position that a zoning would be better, and the applicant gets to choose which direction he wants to go. He's chosen a variance. From the city's viewpoint, a zoning would be a lot better because it's permanent. It gets this in the right, correct zoning classification as opposed to having a variance now and somebody coming in having a variance in 3 or 5 years from now. So it's just the city's preference that the property be rezoned. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, one for the applicant.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
You're hearing kind of what's going on here, and my question to you, given your timing and I guess you have a contract to purchase this property?
We've already done that.
Purchase it, okay.
Right, yeah.
Well, let me ask you, if the board were to deny it, but with the caveat that that you come in for a rezoning, would you be open to that?
Well, if that would help, if I'm following you correctly, when you say rezoning, would that help us pursue what we're trying to do there?
Well, if you were to get the variance, it would be the same thing basically, except for the fact that when you go to sell the property, you would be in a better position because it would be permanently zoned.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah.
Okay, but anyway, and I'm not speaking for the board. I'm just asking that if the board were to recommend to you to not go through with this, or however we decide to do that, would you be willing to come in and it's going to take some time though? Would you be willing to come in and pursue a rezoning?
Oh yeah, sure. Whatever I need to do to make it happen, sure, I'll be willing to come in. And once again, I just want to reiterate, this will be our second location, and we've helped a lot of people. And I just want to do whatever I have to do that.
Mr. Hamilton, I think we all recognize that. I think in Mr. Metcalf's point is that for your benefit and the overall long-term classification of this area, it might be beneficial that you request either that maybe we hold this over for 60 days to allow you to try to go through the rezoning process, or you withdraw your application altogether and approach it from that manner so that you have a better long-term position as it relates to this property and for the other property owners that are in that adjacent area.
Yeah, sure, that's fine. I don't mind doing the first thing that you said, waiting to coming in and taking the process. If that's what we need to do, then I have no problem doing
Well,
that.
it's not that
Sure.
that's what you have to do, but it may be a better option. And long
Okay,
term,
well, that's
as
fine.
Mr. Metcalf tried to describe, is that that's something that will stay with the property for a much longer period of time. You won't lose a
Oh, I
non-compliant
see.
use.
Oh, okay. I understand what you're saying. Okay, yeah, I do. Yeah, okay, yeah. So,
Now,
so
let
yeah,
me ask Bert something, or Margaret. The time period to apply and maybe process a rezoning is 60 days too short of a period?
I would recommend, because the board meets monthly, I would recommend that the board hold this over until their May meeting. That it may be that he's through with zoning by April, but I would foresee it being after the board's April meeting. So I would recommend the board hold it over until their May meeting.
So at least maybe upwards of 6 months.
Well, what we can do, and this is similar as you're probably thinking, the Planning Commission frequently holds over their applications to let the applicant pursue a variance. This is the opposite. But I would recommend a holdover. We could do it until the first meeting in April, and if the applicant's not complete, the application isn't completed at that point, we can just advise the board and then roll it to the next meeting if you prefer.
Okay, Mr. Hamilton, do you understand that?
Yeah.
Maybe holding this application over until April to allow you to try to process a rezoning?
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I'll take that as opposed to a disapproval. If that's what, if that's the next route we have to go, because our determination doesn't stop. We're going to still continue to try to do what we're doing within the law.
Okay.
I have to do that. So, yeah, we have to pretty much go along with what you guys suggest.
Well,
Mr. We appreciate the time.
Yeah, Mr. Hamilton, then you need to formally state that you would request that we hold this over until April.
Okay.
Until the April meeting.
Okay.
Is that your position?
Okay. Yes, sir. That is my position.
Okay.
Mr. Guest?
Yes.
Can I ask just a quick question? So just a real clarification for Mr. Hamilton. Mr. Hamilton, the property, you currently own that property?
Yes, sir. We're purchasing it.
You're purchasing, but you have not closed on the purchase. Is that right?
No, sir. What we did, we went in with a lease purchase. So sure, we've spent money and we paid, rent on the property for the last, last 4 months.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. But me personally, I love the building personally. So even if I had ran up with the problem, I don't know what, I just like the fact that it's an older building. It's almost like a landmark, the design of it. So that keeps me determined.
The reason I'm asking you, I was under the impression that property was owned by an out-of-town owner and that they had leased the property to someone. And I was thinking that was you. And so just to clarify, it is under a lease to y'all with the option to purchase. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Yeah. To clarify more, sir, there's an attorney that's handling the estate, because when we write our check out, it goes to a trust account.
In Maine, or Massachusetts.
Right. And,
yeah.
Yeah. And he's right. He's the attorney who's handling the trust. So, and he's been very helpful in providing us the information to give you guys what y'all need to help make a decision on what we're doing. So if that answers your question.
Well, yeah, and the reason I'm asking that is because it appears to me that you would need their cooperation to get it rezoned. And, you know, you're not the current owner of the property. So just to make sure you understand that, you would need to communicate with them, and they would probably need to be a party to that.
Oh yeah, we have done that thus far, and they're all in. Matter of fact, they've been more than supportive for me to get where I at this point, because a lot of things that your zoning office required, he was more than forthcoming in getting it to me in a very timely manner. So that is not an issue. So he's been very helpful, and as well as the people involved.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Hamilton, I'm going to conclude our public discussion on this. You've requested a formal holdover until April's meeting. Give you a chance with the owner to see about rezoning it. Any other comments or questions of the board?
No, I just like to thank you guys. Thank you guys for taking the time.
Well, we have to vote on it yet, so just hang on.
Okay.
All right. Chair entertain a motion to hold it over till April at the applicant's request. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the holdover, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. Mr. Hamilton, good luck. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thank you.
Margaret,
Thank
if
you,
you want to
guys.
clear the waiting room and allow applicant 6365, 6295, 6006, 5953. This is regarding 103 North Warren Street. I believe Mr. Williams is the applicant's rep.
Yes, and I have admitted Mr. Williams into the meeting. We have not received any correspondence in opposition to this application, and Mr. Williams is available if the board has any questions.
Okay, and there are no individuals, I should say, in the waiting room in opposition.
Correct.
Okay. All right, Mr. Williams.
Don?
How about that?
There we go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Your name and
Hello,
address
William
for the
Guest.
record.
How are you?
I'm good. Mr. Williams, your name and address for the record, please.
Don Williams, 316 Wacker Lane North, Mobile, 36608. Representing Gray Arnold.
And you're representing Mr. Arnold?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And have you seen the staff's recommendation?
Yes, sir.
And as the applicant's rep, your client is, and you are in support of the conditions?
I think the conditions are recommending approval, and we have read the conditions and have no problem.
Okay. Any questions of the board for the applicant's rep, Mr. Williams?
Just a general question, Mr. Guest.
Yes.
Don, what's the holdup on this project? It seems like that it's been in front of us a number of times over the past several years.
It has been. Gray has been hot and cold on the project because of financing. And then when he got ready to move ahead, Hurricane Sally came in and knocked down 2 of the 4 walls.
Yeah.
So we had to regroup and had to come back. The analysis that the staff has given, a very good analysis of where we stood with that situation with the downtown development folks. So now we are actually back to the same plan, but having to do a little different on the walls to save some of the slab.
Gotcha. So, but he is moving forward now with the project?
He is moving forward, and we have plans that are just about ready to go into the city for that purpose, and he is ready to start building and has got his bricks parceled out and ready.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Williams? And as Margaret stated, we have no one in the waiting room in opposition. Staff recommends approval, subject to conditions. The applicant's rep and their client are in agreement with those conditions. Comments of the board? All right, Chair entertain a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
subject to staff's recommendation and conditions.
Yes, sir.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. And hopefully, Don, your client can finish this up so we don't have to see this one again.
I'm in agreement with that.
All right, Margaret, if you'll clear the waiting room and bring in our next applicant. Have they joined? You're muted. There you
Yes,
go.
sir, they have joined. I have admitted into the meeting Linda Harmon.
Is it Linda? Melinda, okay.
Yes.
And this is application 6366 for 914 Government Street.
That's correct. Ms. Harmon, can you hear us? Okay. Ms. Harmon, can you hear us?
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Okay, Margaret, do we have anyone in opposition or any communications regarding this application?
Yes, we do. I need to bring to the attention of the board the comments that you received earlier this morning from the following: William Lawrence, Bob Allen, Jim and Catherine Flowers, Clyde Helmer, Herndon Inge, Ray Isbell, Peter Mackey, Patrick Marquis, Joseph and Julie Sackett, Amanda and William Lawrence, Debbie Amos Isbell, John Klotz, and Suzanne Cleveland. We also have registered to participate Jim and Catherine Flowers. However, they are not in the waiting room.
Okay. And they were planning to speak in opposition or support?
Opposition.
Okay. All right. Well, if they join us shortly, you can bring them in. Otherwise, we'll proceed. Ms. Harmon, your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, Melinda Harmon. And are you asking for my mailing address?
Either your mailing or your business.
Okay, P.O. Box 2184, Mobile, Alabama 36652.
Okay, and the staff's recommending that your application be denied. You want to tell the board why we should consider otherwise?
Well, no other reason except to simply be able to open the building for funeral services and counseling. I have been in the field for right at just under 20 years, about 19 and a half years. And just from working in my field, I have a lot to offer the community. When we went to look at the location, we did realize that, of course, as I can see from some of the opposing letters, that traffic can get congested there at Government Street, particularly during Mardi Gras and Azalea Trail runs and events like that. But we also noticed that at the back of it, Conti Street, there's several entries and exits, which we're not looking to hold large like funeral services. Actually, the purpose of that location would have mostly and mainly been for viewing, not services, whereas you would attend a funeral service. We wouldn't even have it equipped for embalming, which would be done at another site also. Generally, it would be for brief viewing, mainly family, immediate family only. And like I said, just brief visitation, not large funeral services.
Okay, any questions of the board for the applicant? Okay, my understanding, Margaret or Bert, that this is a B2 district and it would require a B3. Is that correct?
That's
That is
correct.
correct.
And what are the adjacent zoning? Let's see, you've got, looks like you've got a B4 one over. And then B1 to the west. What's the one directly adjacent? What's that?
That is RB, which is residential business. And that is a historic home in style. I believe currently there is an office in there. But the brown you see on your screen is B4 general business. Orange is B2. Blue is B1. And then the pink is RB, which is residential business.
Okay. So it's almost like a buffer district between the B4 and the B1.
Yes, RB only exists really in this area. You may have a little bit further north and south, just on the west side of Broad. Again, it's a mixed use business residential district. And it was created to take into account older areas of town. B1's your standard buffer business, which is primarily office only. And then you have B2 here on the site, which was previously used as a bank.
Okay.
The RB,
My next question is, what was the previous use? So.
the RB next to it is owned by the Isbels, who you got a letter from him. They live there and have a court reporting firm that they operate out of there.
Okay.
A true RB use.
Okay. Once again, any questions for the applicant by the board?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. And
Yes.
it speaks to hardship. I mean, is there a particular hardship for this property in that it can't be used as it's zoned currently? I mean, for this use, I'm just not seeing it.
From a legal opinion, after reading the report, I don't see one either, Lewis.
All right. Ms. Harmon, the question was asked, what was the hardship with utilizing this property in its current classification versus you potentially putting your business in a different location?
Well, after viewing your variance lists where where you do have listed what it can be or has been used for, my daughter has a master's in psychology, and she also noticed that we could use it for just meetings for funeral arrangement, counseling, and those type of services, because she is a psychiatric counselor also. We've noticed in our community with funeral services, there's a lot of, well, several funeral homes, they do offer a lot as far as funeral services and planning, but it's the aftercare and the counseling, the need that families have to gain closure when it's all over. We've noticed that just from working with other funeral homes, and it's not offered a lot. It would definitely be a great location to offer just those services, even if we were limited as far as not being able to, to have anything else, even not have visitations. We considered getting a building of that sort just for funeral services and counseling, which did not have to entail having an actual, viewing or any other type of service being offered there.
Okay, Margaret or Bert, what would be the classification for counseling / funeral planning office?
Counseling would strictly is an office type use, which would be allowed in a B1 and a B2 district. Anything regarding funeral services, preparation, that type of thing, we would have to have a complete scope of operation, and having worked with other applicants conducting funeral services, it's highly regulated by the state in terms of what they require to be in place as well. So I say all that to essentially at the end not really give you an answer, because I can't tell you, because we can't be in conflict with the state. I can say definitively grief counseling or any form of counseling would be allowed here by right.
Okay, so therefore the applicant would not be required to submit a variance for that application.
That is correct.
Just have to get their normal license and permits or whatever. Okay, Ms. Harmon, do you understand how conversations evolved, where should you decide not to utilize the facility as a funeral facility and just as a grief counseling, that would be within right for the current zoning?
Yes, sir. I fully understand that. As Ms. Pappas was reiterating, yes, the Funeral Service Board, they do have strict codes and guidelines that we must adhere to as far as what would make this fall under their jurisdiction as to what they require.
Okay.
Whether it, right, just
the reason
counseling or preparation.
The reason why I state that is that you may not necessarily show the hardship for a funeral service facility at this location, but you may by right be able to utilize it for counseling or other that fit within the business classification.
Yes, sir. I do understand.
Okay, so the question before I call for a motion to vote by the board is, do you wish to withdraw your application at this time, or do you want us to proceed with a vote on the variance?
Okay, so if you can elaborate just a little bit more on what the withdrawal process entails. Will this just totally void this application and allow me to place one for just counseling, or how would that, is that correct?
We would not have a vote if you withdraw your application, and then any other use within the classification would be for you to talk to the staff and coordinate with their offices to license and the other permitting requirements. So to clarify, do you wish to proceed with us as a board as it relates to this variance, or do you want to withdraw your application?
Yes, I'll withdraw it. And I guess, like you said, just go ahead and seek all the other credentials that are required under counseling and grief counseling.
Okay, so the applicant has formally withdrawn the application. Therefore, this board is not required to have a vote. Is that correct, Margaret?
Yes. And if I'm speaking erroneously, Doug, please correct me.
So having withdrawn the application, therefore our business. I'm sorry, did I talk over Doug?
It was feedback from Mr. Davis.
Okay, well, that concludes our meeting for today. Do we have any other business? Mr. Anderson, any activities in which you've been involved that we need to be aware of?
We got several.
Hang on, Mr. Anderson. Margaret, if you'll clear the waiting room. Okay.
We got several on appeal, Mr. Guest. I just nothing really's happened worth reporting. Just some pre-trial motions, that kind of stuff. So as soon as anything happens, if we get any set for trial, I'll let y'all know.
We had one last month, I think it was, regarding some property near it was off of Old Shell. Did the applicant appeal that one? It was like a multi-story facility that had been utilized near the the retirement facility. I can't think of the name of it, not the sisters.
Oh, the variance on McGill across from Little Sisters Pork.
Right.
Staff has not been served with notice of an appeal. Doug, have you received anything?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
The most recent appeal I'm aware of is the fence along the property there on Bayfront Road that used to be
Nancy's.
Okay. All right. Any other business for the board?
None at this time.
All right. Motion to adjourn.
Hey, Doug.
Thank y'all.
All right.
Appreciate
Well,
it.
hold on,
Take care.
Mr. Metcalf has something.
Hey, Doug, just curious, don't they have to file that appeal, or that suit within 15 days, or how long do they have to file a suit?
He's
Okay, he's
just
done.
realized, yeah, it's 15 days.